Hi, I'm Nicole. Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Nicole. Nice to meet you.
Oh, yes, it is. I want to know why I was confused. Hello, nice to meet you. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Jenny.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning.
Nice to meet you. Hi. Nice to meet you. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you, appreciate that.
You too. One. Counselor. Hi. How are you? I want to meet you, sir.
There are clippers on the podium, and also I will say, I'm timing you, when you get down to 5 minutes, if you're still continuing, I'm gonna raise my hand, that means you have 5 minutes. Because you have 20 minutes for your presentation and 10 for questions and answers. Yeah.
So, good morning, I'm Kylie.
Good morning, I'm Jennifer.
I'm Jacob. And I'm Juan.
First, we just wanted to thank the University of North Florida for hosting and putting this event together, giving us the opportunity to represent our school, the University of South Florida. We also wanted to thank all of you for being here and taking the time to listen to our presentation. So, first up, I'll give an overview of our whole presentation. So we will first do our intro, give an overview of the key points of the case that we use to come to our decisions. Then we'll clarify any assumptions that we made throughout the case, do our STAR analysis, an overview of what we actually did, the company's SWOT and weather conditions, since that's a very important factor and threat for any supply chain, our 4 different route scenarios, and our weekly shipment schedule, and then how much all of this costs. And then finally we'll end with some questions. So for the case, we're starting in LA and shipping to 4 different cities: Chicago, Madison, Wisconsin, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Rochester, New York. Here we have the number of packages going to each of these cities weekly. So we have 40,000 going to Chicago, 9,000 going to Madison, Wisconsin, 20,000 to Pittsburgh, and 12,500 to Rochester. And we have 3 different equipment options. We have the 28-foot trailer, the 53-foot container, and the 53-foot trailer. The 28 can carry a little over 1,000 packages. The 53-foot container can carry a little over 2,000 packages, and the 53-foot trailer can carry a little over 2,000 packages, but more than the container. The assumptions we've made is that we have optimal dock space and manpower for the most efficient unloading and loading experiences and process, and that weekend transportation is available, but delivery is not. That the facilities and terminals will only operate on weekdays, 24 hours. As for our STAR analysis, as previously mentioned, our situation, we have, we're beginning in LA, shipping to 4 different cities: Chicago, Madison, Pittsburgh, and Rochester. What happened? We have 16,300 packages going to among all 4 cities daily. And we have the 3 different equipment options, and we can use a combination of rail and highway transportation. So the task of the case, we need to come up with the lowest cost and while still maintaining that high quality service and efficiency our customers have come to expect. To do this, we determine the lowest cost of each of the 3 equipment options and different combinations of those options, and created a weekly shipment schedule and mapped out the different route options, with including the truck stops, which you'll hear more about throughout the rest of this presentation. As a result, our packages are delivered on time, maintaining that quality and at the lowest cost. and we can maintain those long-term relationships with our customers that we've always had. So now Jen will take over with the SWOT and the weather conditions.
Hello, I'm Jennifer, and I'll be going over the SWOT analysis. We can go ahead and start with our strengths, the low-density packages. Per the DOT standards, trailers can only weigh up to 80,000 pounds, no more. Our truck driver availability, the company never had an issue with truck drivers. Other companies had truck driver shortage, but we didn't have the shortage problem at all because we had a willingness to pay our employees a good, reasonable amount. Our next strength is sorting facilities close to intermodal terminals, and this is really useful for the long distance and for New York and Pennsylvania. Our expedited intermodal trains, which usually takes around 2 days for a train. We'll go ahead and go to our weaknesses, which is unionized drivers, and no weekend delivery is our biggest weakness due to our high volume of demand that is required. We'll go ahead and go to opportunities. The company and industry growth. The company first started in the late 1800s, and there was a willingness to pay the employees, but also there was a need for good service, and they were willing to pay for it. Okay, that was the first layer that provided the company's growth. The second was the constant demand that they always had. All right, our lead time reduction and increase in demand in e-commerce we also saw as an opportunity. Now, as we all know, the biggest weakness for supply chain is weather, since it's unpredictable. Second is increase in competition over the years, and then finally, the rapid growth of e-commerce if we can't handle it. All right, here is our map for this week. We decided to use map for this week since it's the most current. If I could please draw to your attention to California. I'm sorry? But if I could please draw your attention to California, as you can see, the weather is in the mid-50s, and as it goes to Illinois, the weather decreases. Now, we did take this into consideration when we included the time for delivery. If you see from Illinois to New York and Pennsylvania, the weather continues to decrease to the 30s and 40s. And again, we did take this into consideration because our most important thing we wanted is for our drivers to drive safely and also our packages to arrive on time. All right, now Jacob will take over for our route scenarios.
So thus far, we all have presented to you a very high-level overview of what the case is and what the case does and what our answer is. So right now, I'm here to be a little bit more granular and draw you to our very last conclusion. While analyzing this problem, we came in with 2 different answers to what we should do with our given scenarios. Our first 2 are towards Madison, Wisconsin, and towards Chicago, Illinois, a fairly lower distance than our other 2 locations, Rochester, New York, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So what we did is that our first scenarios, we converted and used direct shipping only using trucks. And for our other 2, we used an intermodal system using train and trucks. As you can see in our Wisconsin scenario, it's just under the 2,000-mile mark. Therefore, the driver had to take 3 stops throughout the way, given the law, and for driver safety. After every 500 miles of driving, the driver must take an 8-hour break. Therefore, we also mapped out all the different locations where our drivers should stop. And all these locations contain a rest stop with parking, as well as food, running water for bathrooms and showers, as well as, most importantly, mechanics. We want to make sure that anything that goes wrong, we have a very quick and easy solution right in the moment so that our drivers can get back into the route as soon and as quickly as possible. And as you can see, leaving from Los Angeles, the order being placed at day 0, it would arrive midday and really early morning of the 4th day to Wisconsin. And our next route is from LA, but this one goes to Chicago. And we decided to take a very similar approach, leaving early in the morning at 6 a.m. via truck and do a straight delivery right until Chicago. We also only used 1 driver for this. We believe that it's the best case scenario because 1 driver can make it within the time constraint and still be the lowest cost possible, which are our 2 main objectives with our analysis. And now I'll draw your attention to our next 2 routes, which we use the intermodal shipping. So we found that the most reasonable way to do this is to get all of the packages going to Rochester and Pittsburgh, combine them and ship them via train to Chicago. This train ride would take 48.5 hours to reach from LA to Chicago. And as soon as they get to LA, these packages will be split. The Pittsburgh packages will go it via truck from the Chicago terminal all the way up to Pittsburgh. And since it's just under the 500-mile mark, we could take a single driver, having received the goods early in the morning and dropping them off at night. Therefore, this would give it a 3-day lead time from LA all the way to Pittsburgh. But as we move forward to our New York scenario, we notice that the location is a little bit larger, just over the 600-mile mark. This would mean that we would need either to stop or to get a subsequent driver. And we chose that due to our time constraint, we wanted to get a second driver. And due to this, they would split the drive evenly, and the packages will get delivered early in the morning the following day, giving a 4-day lead time to our delivery of the packages. And besides this, we also wanted to create a schedule delineating all of the routes as if they left from day 0 being Monday, Tuesday, and subsequently up to Friday. And if you want, you can turn into your packages up to page 6 where you can see it. And as you go through the package, you will see a lot of similar information that I just visited. This is a little bit more detailed, and you could refer to it throughout the presentation or at the end, and you can feel more than free to ask us questions about anything that you would like. But as you get to page 6, you will see our schedule, which includes all of the packages that must be delivered. It includes the arrival and the departure time, as well as all of the different stops that the drivers must make. This is a very detailed and complete schedule that we created throughout the week. And as you may notice, there is only actually 3 shipments going out every week instead of the 5 that we would expect. And this is due because we figured out that it would be a lot cheaper to ship all the products that are placed on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to all ship together Thursday. And this is because of the weekend. We will have some extra time, and because our assumption that the warehouses will not be open during the weekend, we can take this time and deliver it. Therefore, this would greatly reduce the amount of trucks that we need for the delivery, making it a lot cheaper within the same time constraint. And now I would like to move on the ball to my colleague Juan, where he will dive a little bit deeper into the costs that we incurred throughout our analysis.
Thank you, Jacobo. So for the last portion of our presentation, we would like to dig a little deeper into the costs, since at the end what we're trying to do with this case is minimize as much as possible the costs associated with the routes we previously showed you, while keeping up with our constraints, mainly with the time constraint of 4 days deliveries, therefore maximizing the profit of the routes as much as possible. So if you could please turn to your pamphlets to the last page, you will find a little more details about all the costs that we incurred during this, for these routes. I will give you a quick overview. Of course, after we finish with the presentation, we will have questions, and we could give you more details about it. So for the first question of the case, we were only taking into account a demand of 1 single day, that's Monday, delivering on Fridays. This is a total demand of 16,300 packages. For the first route, as Jacobo was explaining, we're going to use solely trucks to move the 1,800 packages from LA to Madison. For this, we're going to use a single truck, as I told you, with a 53 trailer behind it. It will reach on time a single driver and will result in a total cost of $3,959. For the 8,000 packages that are staying in Chicago and not going further to Pittsburgh and Rochester, we're also going to use the truck option, since we figured out it was the most cost-effective way of reaching that Chicago market. And for that, we're going to use 3 trucks. We're going to use only 28-feet containers, due to that they can be sorted and loaded easier and faster. And we will use 2 of these trucks. Will be carrying 3 28-feet containers behind them, and the last truck will be carrying 2. This being only driven by single drivers, making the stops that we previously showed, will give us a total amount of $12,669. Now, for the intermodal portion of our operations, as we told you, we're going to use both rail, and after that transfer these trailers to the trucks to be delivered by highway to the respective cities. We decided to sort and load the trailers, from the beginning in LA. This way we don't have to spend more money in sorting and valuable time that can take up to 12 hours for the sorting of new trailers in the Chicago station. For the LA to Pittsburgh, we're going to use a total of 253 trailers to move a total of 4,000 packages, which will then be transported into the highway part of our trip, and will be a total cost of $9,987. And finally, for the route that goes from LA to Rochester, we'll do the same, but with 3 28-feet containers, 20-feet trailers, sorry. And for a total cost of $10,503. That's including the additional driver that we have to pay for, since the distance is a little over 500 miles. This will give us a total cost for a single day of demand of $37,119. So, for the second part of the case, we are now taking into account the whole demand for the week, with totals up to 40,000 packages. As Jacobo previously told you, we are going to bundle three of those shipments, in one single shipment going out on Fridays. By doing this, we increase our efficiency tremendously. In the case of the route that goes from LA to Chicago, before we were using 328 28 trailers. Now we can fit all of that in 53 trailers, increasing our efficiency by 11%. That's only in that route. Now, if we go to the last route, we can do the same thing, utilizing 328 trailers before to move 1/3 of the demand. We can now switch it to 4 53-feet trailers, and this will increase our cost in terms of the second portion of the intermodal operation. The highway part will increase it tremendously, but we will save a lot of money in the first part, the rails, totaling up to a savings of over 30% for this route specifically. All the savings, taking into account 2 of the single-day shipments and the bundle shipment of 3 days, will total a little over $12,000 a week, which, taking into account the projected growth of the GDP of these 4 states, and making a weighted average against the demand of packages that are going to each of the states, we projected that it could go over to 9 million by the year 2030. We apologize, there's a typo in the presentation. It's supposed to say by 2030. So now that we're over the cost, we'd like to thank you for your time and consideration, and we're open for any questions you may have.
Well, you scored brownie points by using my truck on the first picture.
Mine on the second.
Yeah.
I did want to point out, I know the case study said it was required 8-hour rest
Yes,
break
sir.
for trucks, but it's actually 10 hours, is the federal law. And then they can only drive 11, and take 10 off. So that may impact your service a little bit on there.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand the weather issue. It's a snapshot of 1 week. How does that impact?
We just want to take into consideration, drivers have to drive slower due to the snow, tires, and especially up north, Pennsylvania being the mountains. It's extremely cold weathers, and drivers don't like driving when it's snowing, so we just wanted to give them a little bit more lead time to drive a little slower, stop, rest, eat, any of that into consideration. So in case there's a blizzard going on, they have to, legally can't go driving into a blizzard, they have to stop. We did add like around 3 hours of a buffer time for them to get to their destination.
That's something to take into account in rail transportation too, right? If there's cold weather, you can't build as long of a train.
Yep.
For whatever reason, it stalls out, you have to build air into the train, it's gonna take a little bit longer without rain.
So, given that a 53-foot intermodal container moving on a train to Chicago is probably the most efficient cost-wise, I'm surprised that none of your scenarios used any intermodal containers.
We did use intermodal. We just used the trailers that we had beforehand, so that we wouldn't have to sort the packages out of the trailer and switch it into, out of the container and then switch it to the trailer. And we did use the intermodal and the train tracks to go from LA to Chicago while we were delivering packages to both Rochester, New York and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Could you explain to me, you said one of your models or one of your thoughts was if you
took all of your packages from Tuesday but sent them on Thursday?
Oh.
So, would you think there'll be a customer service issue?
Oh, I'm
there,
sorry if I
or-
didn't make myself clear.
Okay.
So what I meant through this is that we would get all the packages that would be delivered, that would be placed on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And since if we would ship them on those given days, they would arrive during the weekend.
Okay,
So what we did is that we consolidated all these shipments so that they all ship out Friday, and they would still get there on Monday. On
Okay.
Monday, early in the morning at around 1 a.m.
oh, got it.
Therefore, kind of maximizing the cost savings that we could have.
Okay. So, you're not gonna get your package, if it arrives on Friday, you're not gonna get it till Monday anyway?
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Okay, got it.
Exactly. So we figured, why don't we just put all of them together and save some
Okay.
money?
So just a point of clarification, for the Chicago and Madison component, y'all chose, I think, to run that highway all the way from
Yeah.
LA.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we do.
And that proved out to be, I can see where the service is perfect. That proved out to be more economical cost-wise as well.
Yes, it did, sir.
What was the difference? What was the cost difference?
Between using rail and just
Yeah.
shipping it direct.
It was a little below $1,000. But this was because instead of, usually in the case said we had the option of basically switching drivers every 500 miles, we figured out that by making them stop in this specific points of the map that we showed you, we would save those 2 hours and only have the driver rest for 8 hours and continue driving with a single driver, not having to pay for twin drivers in any of the portion of the.
Did you, I thought I heard you say you were using triples, triple 28 footers?
Yes, sir.
So what distance, not all the way from LA to Chicago, right? Or was it, how did you, because it's not legal to run them all the way across country, so you
Yeah,
can't
no.
run triples from LA to Chicago. You can only run it in certain states in the middle. How did you do that?
We did use triples from LA to Chicago, we thought it was cheaper, and we assumed that we could do it.
Yeah.
Based on the information that was given to us on the packets.
That's a good point. And y'all, you can run triples east of Chicago to a few short haul markets, but transcontinentally, they don't allow that, so doubles is all you can do.
Any other questions?
I'm gonna make a statement, it's not a question, but this is my 4th year of doing this. You are the first group that I ever heard bring up safety.
Yeah.
And safety is very, very key
That's-
to an operation, so I do appreciate
In the
you
pamphlet
touching on that.
that we were given, that was one of the key points that they mentioned why the company was doing so well for growth, was because of safety regulations that they considered for their drivers. Drivers wanted to get paid well, and they wanted to work in safe conditions as well.
I'll also say this published schedule is really helpful for someone, let's say a salesperson trying to make a pitch to a company to use their goods. This is helpful to have as a pamphlet to give them to that customer. So kudos to you all who create this.
And we try to keep it all as basic and as easy to understand by the first look you give it as possible, and so that, as you said, like, we could be explained to as many people as possible.
And all our truck stops are realistic truck stops that
Yeah.
are founded throughout the United States.
Yeah, we actually found them, researched, and
Yeah.
found all the different amenities that all these different stops had for our drivers.
We want to make sure there are showers, mechanics, they could dress and eat.
And some of them have weight stations.
Yeah.
Of course, we know drivers sleep in their trucks, but
Sure,
just the option.
sure.
That's my understanding, they give, in your materials, give you the 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right, okay, so in reality,
10 hours.
10 hours.
10 hours, yes.
break, they
Yes.
can drive at 11, with a 30-minute break in that 11.
And the good thing that we did, besides having that small buffer time of about 2 to 3 hours per route, is we also wanted to expect changes like this. So if you notice, all of our routes arrive the day that it's meant to be, but really early in the morning. So 12:30 in the morning on Monday, or 1 in the morning on Monday. So even though maybe these hours need to be longer, we'll still reach the customer in time, because instead of getting there at 1 in the morning, we might get there at 8 in the morning, and it really doesn't pose that much of a difference, and it'll still get to them on time. So that's why we wanted to, like, kind of calculate very well the time and leave a lot of time open just in case of any room for error.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank
Appreciate it
you.
very much. Thanks for leaving us some hard copies.
Yeah,
too.
just for you, Keith, to remember us by.
Very useful, very good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Have a good day.